Let's explore the real reason people struggle to find a good meditation teacher. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The individual writes, or wrote, "How does one find a teacher on one's spiritual journey?" And this individual continues, "I've been on the path of spirituality or awakening or enlightenment for many years now. When I look back in my old self, I can see that I have come a long way." This person, whether this person knows it or not, and these are very, very understandable things. I'm not attacking anybody, but this person is writing, whether they know it or not, as if to defend themselves from being denied the benefit of the doubt from people with big keyboards and small penises. When we ask a question on Reddit, we are often assailed with really cruel, persnickety individuals who delight in denying us the benefit of the doubt, and their primary mode of communication is to be scathing. So I respect this person's attempt to sidestep the avoidable landmines of others' cruelty. Let's continue. This individual continues and writes, "However, I am also aware that I have a long way to go and have several blind spots." Brilliant. These are important distinctions. Let's continue. "There's a lot to learn, and awakening is a lifelong process, just like evolution, and I would like to keep it going. So I'm going to throw a wrench in the gears. There are many definitions of enlightenment, and some definitions of enlightenment are so widely divorced from the Buddha's teachings that they serve one purpose and one purpose only: to forever make of the student a mewling infant, and to ever empty that student's wallet." The Buddha made it very simple. Regardless of what sect appeals to you, be it Theravada, Mahayana, or Tantrayana, the entirety of the path can be reduced down to simply the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And when we read the final passages, or the second to the final passages of the Satipatthana Sutta, we learn that according to the Buddha, the Eightfold Path can be mastered in as little as a week. So, yes, once you've mastered mindfulness and meditation, they become your full-time teachers. And once you've mastered the path, you continue to evolve, and that's great fun. It's fun going Mach 2 with your hair on fire. Totally fun. But the lifelong journey comes after enlightenment. However, I believe now is the time for me to find like-minded people or a teacher guru who are also walking a similar path. Great. We have evolved to be social beings. We have evolved, humanity is not known for it being fleet of foot, sharp of claw, or long of tooth, but we have big old brains and we can cooperate. So the very fact that you would prefer not to do it on your own is great. In a collection of quotes of the Buddha, I think it was called In the Buddha's Words, I'm not sure. There's a wonderful passage where it is said, Ananda asked the Buddha, "Is half the path our relationships?" The Buddha said, "No, it's the entirety of the path." So the very fact that you recognize you could benefit from the right companionship is brilliant. Good on you. Let's continue. Maybe they have walked in it longer than I have and know things that I don't, and have a perspective that can illuminate the remaining shadow parts of me. Excellent. So that is a reference, whether you know it or not, to Carl Gustav Jung. And he was really big on shining light on the subconscious, as was his teacher. And we can be very, very generous as spirit and say, I can learn from anybody. Anyone can show me different parts of me. But let's bring it down to brass tacks. Can we find someone who can help us to comprehend, practice, and master the Buddha's Eightfold Path? Once we do that, the purpose of the outer teacher is to help us find the inner teacher. That sounds mystical. What's that? The inner teacher is nothing less than the mastery of mindfulness and meditation. It's kind of like a relay race when we were in junior high. You're running with the baton, you slap the baton into your teammate's hand, and then they run with it. So you can think of it that way. Your external teacher is running with the baton of the mastery of mindfulness and meditation. They help you to master it in a remarkably short period of time. And then, boom, they can go drink some Gatorade and just watch you sprint off into the sunset. Let's continue. For many things that I've read, my understanding is that having a teacher or guru can oftentimes accelerate one's spiritual journey many times, many folds. Yes, it could. It's kind of like having a brain tumor. The right surgeon can really help you out. The wrong surgeon can hinder you. Find the right one. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. Fear is poison. Fear is antithetical to the spiritual path, regardless of the ravings of the minions of orthodoxy. Fear ain't your friend. We gotta be sober and we have to be ruthless in our pursuit of the teacher who is best for us. I think the tricky thing is to find the right guru who is with substance, which is becoming harder and harder in this day and age where so many people are self-proclaimed prophets and gurus. Okay, this is really, really good stuff. So there's two extremes in a happy medium. No big surprise there. So one extreme is someone says, I'm good because that guy says I'm good. And that guy is trustworthy because that guy says he's good. And that's what the kids, and that's what the philosophy teachers refer to as circular reasoning and must be avoided. The other person says, you must trust me because I am cryptic, mysterious, manipulative, and oddly dressed. Ooh. Yeah. That's great. I would love anyone's perspective and guidance on how, would you say, I can put myself out there and find a teacher. I love that phrase, put myself out there. It kind of feels like we're in a rom-com, doesn't it? I have been open to one for some time now, and someone who had helped me in my spiritual journey told me that the teacher will show up when the student is ready. Just open your heart and send energy around the whole world, and we'll find its way to the teacher. Metaphorically, that is correct. There is nothing wrong, though, with doing a Google search. There's nothing wrong with putting feelers out there on the social media platforms you personally feel the most comfortable with. Oh, she or he who wrote this question, you have already done that on Reddit. Good on you. One of the cool things about being alive right now is that we don't have to cross land and sea and have a Tolkien quest just to find a teacher. We can find a teacher pretty quickly. The question is whether they are helpful or not, whether they are good-hearted, whether they are sharp-minded. Important qualifications. Lastly, how did you find your teacher? Please share your story with us, and may others can benefit from it. Okay, so here we go. When looking for a teacher, what is their view of enlightenment? There are some teachers who are malicious and they just want to, they're basically are con men, con people, and they want to just fleece the flock. They want to just take your time and your energy and your money and your resources, and they will concoct some weird definition of enlightenment that is unattainable. That's called moving the goalposts, logical fallacy. And they will disempower you in every conceivable way. So, whether the Buddha was real, whether the Buddha was merely archetypical, there has been a large corpus of teachings left behind in his name. When one looks at it, one can see a huge variety of writing styles, which infer that these things were recorded, if not written, by many, many teachers. Well, then how is one to know which teachings and teachers to rely upon? We'll approach that in a minute or two. Don't worry, I'll hook you up. But here's something we can all agree on. There are certain discourses that are universally agreed upon. One of those is the 4 bases of mindfulness discourse. Satipatthana Sutta, if I wish to show off in a foreign language, which means nothing really. The second to last passage promises that full enlightenment can be mastered in less than 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. If someone tells you it's going to take you 3 kalpas to become a Buddha, it's going to take you the length of time for a universe to generate, sustain, degenerate, wait, and then do it again 3 times, thank you that person for their time and then run the fuck away from them. Because Buddha said, dude, you can do it in a week. Now, he taught that in the Iron Age on a different continent. Here in the West, in the Silicon Age, we have 2 great challenges standing between us and enlightenment: the actual teachings and sitting. Because I don't know about you, but I was taught to slouch on the couch in front of the boob tube. And to learn how to sit sustainably, comfortably, can take a while. You can master sitting within 15 weeks. Within 15 weeks, you can get so good at sitting that you can do it for 75 minutes. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's cool. If during that time you're incrementally increasing your length of time sitting from 5 minutes every 12 hours the first week, to 10 minutes every 12 hours the second week, to 15 minutes every 12 hours the third week, progressing gradually, it doesn't have to be disruptive. It doesn't have to be disruptive to your body or your schedule or your work or your relationships or your children or your pets. Even your cat will approve. So you gotta find someone who says, yeah, you can do this deal. You can do this deal within 7 quickly, according to the timetable that the Buddha outlined in the Satipatthana Sutta. If someone doesn't feel they can help you or any of their students do it in a timely manner, then thank that person for their time and honesty and move on. Ease on down the road, as they said in The Wiz. You ain't found the right teacher yet. Find someone who's like, yeah, we can do this. We can totally do this. Not just because they have a good, happy feeling, but because they are sufficiently grounded in a view of the teachings that is liberated from the tyranny of fundamentalism. So let's explore this real quick. About 100 years before the advent of the Buddha, Good old Lao Tzu either collected or wrote the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. A careful study of it shows the purpose of the Tao Te Ching is not to reconcile yin and yang, but to notice the difference and to always choose yin. In my experience, I would say the Tao Te Ching is my favorite feminist tome. Right up there with Our Bodies, Ourselves. But, what do I know? But what has that to do with Buddhism? Well, it didn't take very long for the teachings of yin and yang to find their way into the corpus of Buddha's teachings. And so we see a dichotomy. Tales of Gautama the Buddha and tales of the Buddha's wicked cousin, Devadatta. And when we look at the teachings and the behaviors of these two real or imagined individuals, they mirror yin and yang. And so the dark irony is the majority, Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. So it should not surprise us when 90% of the people vocationally or recreationally or spiritually tend to be walking the path of patriarchy, thinking that being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and sometimes even cruel is a good thing. Even Shakespeare's Hamlet proclaimed to his mom, "I must be cruel to be kind." No, you don't. But there's always going to be a minority, regardless of gender, who think it's really, really good to be flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. These people are there is a smattering of these people found everywhere, in every arena of human endeavor. Vocationally, spiritually, secularly, recreationally, romantically, interpersonally, platonically, you will always find a few people like this. So you want to find a teacher like this. Now, don't make the mistakes I did. I went from an horribly abusive childhood to a Christian cult to a Buddhist cult, escape the shackles of both, metaphorically speaking, and then like a curious cat whose head is stuck in an empty bag of Doritos, I had to backpedal for multiple decades, full time, to de-indoctrinate myself. I would not wish that on you. Find a teacher who at least says, when in trouble, when in doubt, always choose to be flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. There are so many people who dress like I do, with weird haircuts or no hair, who just are cranky and controlling and fearful and coercive. These people, not all of them are malicious. Many of them are just weak-minded, but they're not helpful to you. They're helpful at helping you become like them, but that's a journey you don't want. So we've already discussed timetable. So here's a big one. When we read an English translation of the Jewel Rosary of Gampopa, there's a passage that translates as, "Don't ransom the Dharma." Remember, the Buddha was raised, before the Buddha was the Buddha, when he was just Gautama, he was a prince. He already had power. He already had money. He already had pleasures most of us could never dream of. He did not choose to become a guru to get rich quick. He was already rich. Now, some people would say, dude, man, if a teacher doesn't charge you fees, he might starve. Okay. If your teacher or potential teacher is not willing to pay the price of their own mortality to help humanity, then you ain't done shopping. And there are people, either weak-minded or deceitful, who will talk about a mandatory donation. Dude, if a donation's mandatory, it ain't a donation, it's a fee. Find yourself, it's one thing to accept donations, that's Jim Dandy. But you don't need to coerce people. If your teacher has a fee structure and they want to charge you for books and accoutrement and their time, keep shopping. You haven't found the right one yet. Find people who will give you their teachings, for free downloads, free PDFs, free classes, free live streams, everything free. You want to find yourself a Dharma slut, someone who's giving it away, like a high school boy, like a college boy, just giving it away, but not necessarily their crunch, the Dharma. They're two different things, I assure you. As a child, on weekday mornings, during the commercial breaks for Sesame Street, I learned an important lesson from the peanut butter commercials that choosy moms choose Jif. So I'm going to give you the ultimate test for a teacher. It is the most effective test, but it is the least convenient. Ready? Ready? Here we go. When you encounter a teacher, ask them for a technique. Then apply that technique they give you for about 5 minutes. Do this about once every 12 hours. So it's 5 minutes every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days. Number 1, if you can't do that, then the teacher probably isn't the problem. Number 2, if you do that, splendid. Notice your results. By the end of the week, have you become so anxious that you tremble like Barney Five on the Andrew Griffith Show? Are you so cranky that those around you have named you Little Darth Vader? If that's the case, then you know that technique and that teacher probably aren't best suited for you at this time. However, if you have the good fortune to stumble upon a teacher and technique that actually increase your peace, actually increase your joy and your love in as little as a week, then you found a useful teacher. They might not be the second coming of Christ. You might not hear a choir of angels every time they walk in the room, but they're useful to you to a certain degree at this time. That's enough. That's enough. I do look forward to meditating and chanting with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of Taoism, Hinduism, and especially every sect of Buddhism, so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. But support doesn't have to be clicking the join button. You can support just by subscribing or giving a thumbs up or writing a comment. There's all kinds of ways to support. This morning, let's play with easy meditation. Now, I don't want to boast, but this meditation text is approved by Buddha Cat. It's kind of a big deal. Now, whatever you call it, whether you call it sati, pasadi, whether you call it dhyana, whether you call it mahamudra, whether you call it shan, proto-zen, zen, mahasandhi, ati-yoga, dzogchen, or trekcho, it's just mindfulness and meditation. So I've got a plan. I've got a secret agenda, and I'm going to reveal to you. Here it is. I want to get you up to speed when it comes to mindfulness and meditation in 4 explanations. So here's the first one. I'd like to explain mindfulness, which is the 7th fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system. No, Virginia, it's not found in the 3-pound supercomputer between your ears. Rather, it is ensconced in the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. No, it has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Well, then what has it evolved to do? This bad boy has evolved to help us to perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Well, you might ask. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Well, you might ask. Oh, darn it, I got ahead of myself because sometimes I go stupid. So it could be, if I was poetic, I would tell you that vulnerability is the key that opens the door of perception. Perhaps that is why this set of individuals comprising this meditational archetype communicate vulnerability through their nudity. Now, if we're not supposed to actively concentrate, then what do we do with our breath? We treat our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we notice our body breathing in, automatically let the medulla oblongata do its deal. We can silently and mentally recite this rather ungainly phrase, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. Remember, this is just the first of 4 exercises. We can be patient. During the exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. No, Virginia, this is not an affirmation. Affirmations deal with desire and faith and wishful thinking. These are words that simply describe what's going on right now in this moment through the lens of neuroscience. Now, for this first of 4 exercises, I would like to practice it for 16 rounds. What the hell's a round? In this context, a round is 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. 16? How am I going to count to 16 on the 4 fingers and 1 thumb of my left hand? Good question. During each inhalation, I'm going to advance the tip of my left thumb. I'm going to let it count on the various sets of creases and tip found on each of my fingers. Now, because I'm doing all this yammering, I'm breathing faster than you. And therefore, in the time it takes me to do 16 rounds, you might only do 12 or 8. That's fine. Your rate of breathing is neither an indictment nor a acquittal. I got the term acquittal from Addams Family Values. Such a geek. So, let's play with this exercise, passively, silently, and mentally in harmony with our net breathing. And if you wish to follow along with me digitally with your hand, you can. We come to our second of 4 exercises, where I introduce you to meditation, which is the 8th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. During our inhalation, we can, for the span of just one exercise, we can play with the phrase sitting tall, which will remind our body to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head. Quick review. During our inhalation, we're wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. What are we to do with these things? Simple. The answer is found in our exhalation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system. It is also ensconced within our spinal cord, this time in the lower lumbar region, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region. As such, it has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Therefore, during our exhalation, we're going to silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. Now, let's take it a step further. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever it is that we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel at least a little bit less graspable. Our job is not to stop perceiving. Our job is to stop being beat up by the survival mechanisms that, when run amok, cause us to always hate and crave and cling and turn us into the Tasmanian devil in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and that's not an attractive look. Now, because complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, let's sprinkle some figurative language on this equation. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Now, any English teacher worth their salt will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is rather intangible to the hand. Let us play with this exercise for the next 16 or so rounds. Where we're sitting so tall as to make our grandma g'thel or swell with pride. I would like to share with you the first of two fringe benefits to practicing mindfulness and meditation. And I would like to share it with you in the pattern of good news, bad news. We'll start with bad news. When we rely on active concentration and active contemplation, our blood mass collects at a bit of tissue the size of a pea that the big kids call an amygdala. It's found in the bottom of our limbic system, and it functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression. These are not attributes we typically seek to multiply when we say, hey, I'd like to meditate. And yet, those who practice concentration and contemplation become really rigid and really cranky, thinking it's a good idea to beat each other with sticks if they slouch during meditation. Yikes. Now for some good news. When we replace active concentration with the passive mindfulness that we access through our sympathetic nervous system, when we replace active contemplation with the passive mindfulness that we access through our parasympathetic nervous system, then our blood mass shifts to a hunk of meat located 2 or 3 centimeters behind our forehead and described as the anterior cingulate gyrus, perhaps a winning action in Scrabble. This bad boy functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. Perhaps that is why these two figures comprising this meditational archetype are depicted as beautiful. Perhaps it is also why the highest of the Dzogchen Lamas have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived, and the fringe benefit of our practice of mindfulness, mindfulness and meditation. During this exercise, during our inhalation, please silently and mentally recite the 3 syllables, notice this. During our exhalation, we continue to play with relaxing. I would like to tell you a tale of rigidity. I once asked a junior Zen teacher for a copy of their chanting text, and she rebuked me for abandoning my tradition. I then asked her teacher for a copy of the same text, and she said, "Oh, sure, here you go, knock yourself out. Here's a couple books while you're at it." One was rigid, one was flexible. Choose flexibility. Well, we've survived 3 out of 4 exercises. Here comes the 4th one. I would like to share with you the, what's it called? One moment. Please bear with me. Boop, boop. And let's go over here because I don't want to lose my place when it comes to editing. Love to edit. Okay, one more moment, if you please. Okay. I would like to share with you the second fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation. To do so, I would like to explore some iconography, if that's okay. Consider this gal the color of a cumulus cloud. She appears to be actively delighting, in tantric union. This reminds us that contrivance is always trumped by spontaneity. Consider her partner, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that not all spontaneity is created equal. After all, the scattered spontaneity we experience after consuming 3 espressos in 30 minutes is going to be entirely different from the centered spontaneity that we experience when we make a habit of mindfulness and meditation. Now let's take it a step further. When our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity generated by mindfulness and meditation, then our life could become as blissful as the real or imagined paradise or pure land or vati of a real or imagined Buddha. So let us, when you make the mistake of taking a woolen garment and washing it in hot water and then throwing it in the dryer, and then you pull it out to find that it has shrunk. Well, let's do the same thing. Let's shrink down our previous exercise. During our inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of mind, as silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature, as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb ease. Having climbed to contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team let us meditate as transformatively as Obi-Wan Kenobi upon the toasty sands of Tatooine under the guidance of the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. Let us take a deeper look into this archetype of meditation. Described in the Sanskrit as Samantabhadra, Samantabhadri, Karma Mundra. Described in Tibetan as Kuntu Zangpo, Kuntu Zangmo, Yabiyam. Described figuratively in English as, oh, them Buddhists is doing the hibbity-dibbity. Described literally in English as all good ones sporting in tantric union. What is meant by all good one? And how are we like the all good ones? There is a Sanskrit phrase you may be aware of, Tathagata, which could translate as Buddha nature, which is a delightfully Iron Age way of expressing what we now understand in the Silicon Age as this. Every complex life form on this planet has a sympathetic nervous system wired for empathy. Every complex life form on this planet has a parasympathetic nervous system. I apologize. We have a sympathetic nervous system wired for mindfulness, a parasympathetic nervous system wired for meditation, and an anterior cingulate gyrus wired for empathy. We are already wired to master, no less practice, the Buddha's Eightfold Path. We are not defined by what we see or hear or feel or taste or smell or the like. Similarly, we are not defined by what we emote, intend, reason, recall, or imagine. What is it then that defines us? What we do with what we notice. When we have the courage to vulnerably notice what we're experiencing in the present moment, even if that present moment is a future fantasy or a past memory, we're courageous. When we have the wisdom to relax into the non-graspable nature of that which we receive during our exhalation, then we are wise. The seventh enlightenment factor is equanimity. What does that mean? It means whatever we experience, we have the same reaction to. What is that? Why, we notice it and we relax into it. Whether that which we are experiencing is external, internal, physical, mental, pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. But won't that make us just a sheeple? Here's the funny thing. The more we notice and release, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. Like a martial arts master in a kung fu movie. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Click the send icon, and I will happily answer the question for you. Let's talk about tantric sex. There are two extremes and a happy medium. One extreme is convinced that you can orgasm your way to enlightenment, and people are just trying to contrive intense orgasms. The other extreme is terrified of orgasm and seeks to prevent it. Both extremes are indulging patriarchy's controlling tendencies. The middle path shows us the path of matriarchy, which neither flees orgasm nor chases orgasm, but which instead behaves from centered spontaneity in a great erotic ballet, noticing whatever it is done, noticing whatever is experienced, and relaxing into it. That which is true of erotic sensation is true of every G-rated sensory experience. Our sights, our flavor, the sights we see, the flavors we taste, the sounds we hear, the scents we smell, the sensations we feel. One of the fun things about homosexuality or homosexuality is that it's very difficult to, it seldom results in unwanted pregnancy. I mention this because what comes to mind is an acquaintance of mine, an aging lesbian nun who is stuck in a fundamentalist organization. And for the majority of her adult life, she has been loathing her latent homosexuality, which is tragic. It could be a wonderful tool upon the spiritual path. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagine Alma, Amoga, Siddhis, syllable ah of green lights. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Ratnasambhava's gold, a syllable drum comprised only of gold light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chest we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagine Akshobhya's sapphire, whom, syllable whom, comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever throat we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amitabha's syllable free, comprised only of ruby lights. as we relax into our exhalation. Whatever crown or scalp or top of our head we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined varochanas, suitable om, comprised only of diamond-colored light. Welcome to the tail end of this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Remember to click the send icon. Let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. It is in then Kanji and moves on an archetype of love and letting go, while moving in the deep peace of the perfect understanding of awareness and release. Shed light on the five aggregates and found them to be equally empty. After this realization, she made peace with all pain. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. The same is true with healing, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. Listen, Shariputra, all phenomena are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, nor corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, and no awareness that once perceived cannot be released. No sensation, no flavor, no scent, no sound, no sight, no phenomena that once perceived cannot be released. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no eyes, no mind that once perceived cannot be released. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing that once perceived cannot be released. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them, from confusion to aging and death that once perceived cannot be released. No stress, no confusion, no liberation, no path, no understanding, and no attainment that once perceived cannot be released. Because there is no attainment that once perceived cannot be released, the Bodhisattva archetypes of awareness and letting go supported by the perfection of understanding, find no obstacles for the minds that once perceived cannot be released. Having no obstacles that once perceived cannot be released, they transcend the tyranny of fear, liberating themselves forever from the tyranny of illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing, arrive at full right and universal enlightenment. Therefore one should know that this perfect understanding of noticing and releasing is like a great mantra, is like an unequaled mantra. The destroyer of the tyranny of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. In mantra of Prajnaparamita's perfect wisdom of awareness and release could therefore be proclaimed. This is the mantra Gate Gate Para Sangati Buddhi Swaha. Go completely and perfectly, go to enlightenment, may it be so. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.